Okay, so let's start digging around Lightroom. We'll have a quick overview first of all and see exactly what it is that we are dealing with here. Now, if you're using a version older than Lightroom 5, there might be some things a little bit later on in the course, some of the tools that you may not have, but there's always workarounds in terms of the things that I'll show you, and I'll always mention as well, if it's not available in an older version and so on. But let's have a look at first of all what we're dealing with, and essentially what Lightroom is broken down into is we have modules, and each module then has a slightly different interface. So for example, when you open up Lightroom for the very first time, we're going to be having a look at the library module, and that's what we're going to be exploring now in this lesson. But we've got 4 panels essentially. So we've got a panel over here on the left hand side, we have our main panel here in the middle, and we also have our panels on the right hand side. And we've got a final panel here at the bottom, which is called our film strip, and we'll see all of our photographs appear at the bottom here when we import them into Lightroom. Then we have our different modules. We can click each of these. We've got our development module. This is where we'll edit our photographs. There's a map, there's a book module, which we're going to have a look at a bit later on throughout the course. Okay, so each of these we will explore in due time. Okay, so for the moment we're going to stick with the library module. Now, generally everything that we need to be able to do through Lightroom is always on the screen for us. Okay, so there's a lot going on here in all these little icons and these little buttons and so on that we can press, but we'll always find them back here at the top as well. So you have your file, your edit, your library. It's called Lightroom there if you're using a Mac too. That's your edit menu. We've got photo and so on. And all of these options we will be exploring throughout the course as well. Okay, so just to give you an idea of where things are located. Now, the first thing I want to talk about though before we import any photographs into Lightroom is the catalog. So if we have a look here over on the left hand side, we have this option here called the catalog, and I'm just going to click that down. Each time you click each of these panels down, they'll expand out. These little triangles will allow you to keep everything nice and neat and organized, and that's one thing that we want, and as photographers, is to keep everything nice and neat. But the idea of the catalog is that when we import photographs into Lightroom, we're not importing them to be stored within Lightroom. Lightroom doesn't store our photographs. Our photographs are still stored on our computers. Lightroom is an interface that's used to interact with our photographs, to edit our photographs, to organize our photographs, and everything that we'll have a look at throughout the course. Okay, but it does this by using the catalog. So the catalog essentially works as a middleman or woman through our photographs. Okay, so in other words, when we import images into Lightroom, what's actually being imported is information. So the information is a preview of the photograph, metadata, and lots of other information about the shot. But the preview is essentially what we are working on within Lightroom. And when we've made all of our changes to our photograph, we hit the export option, and this will save our photographs. Then it'll essentially save our photographs as a copy, or if you wanted to overwrite your original file, you can do that as well. But for that reason, the catalog is actually an incredibly safe way to work on our photographs. I always get asked what's the main difference between Photoshop and Lightroom, and that is actually the biggest difference. The catalog is a very, very safe way, a completely non-destructive way of working on our photographs as photographers. So I do want to make you aware of it. Now, you do not need to create a new catalog every time you import photographs. I'll stress that now. One catalog will hold information for up to about 150,000 pictures. Okay, so I strongly recommend that you only work with one catalog for the moment. As you become much more proficient in Lightroom, you might decide to create new catalogs for yourselves, but I really recommend that you stick with just one for the moment. If you want to locate your catalog, if you go to the Edit or the Lightroom option, you simply select Catalog Settings, and it comes up with an option here then, and it'll show you where it is. You can see the location here, and you can simply click that, and it comes up and it'll show you there exactly where it is located on your computer. If you delete this, you will unfortunately lose the information, the edits you've made to your photographs. You won't lose your photographs. You can't delete your photographs by deleting a catalog, but you lose any changes that you've made. So for that reason, I do recommend you also back up your catalogs at least once a week. So you can choose when you want to back them up. It'll prompt you when you close Lightroom if you want to back them up, and it'll back up those changes that you've made, all those information changes and so on. But it won't back up your photographs. It'll only back up your catalog. So do be aware of that as well. So with that information, let's actually begin to import some photographs into our catalog to work on and organize in Lightroom. So as you can see here, we are being prompted to click the import button to begin. So we'll do that, and we click this. It'll ask us to select a source, okay? So our source is going to be where our photographs are coming from. Now what we're going to do for the purposes of this lesson is we're going to import photographs that are already on our computer. So I'm sure plenty of you have photographs that are already on the computer that you want to import into Lightroom, and that's what we'll do tonight. So if we have a look at our options here at the top of the screen, we've got 4 different options, but there's only 2 here that we really need to concern ourselves with now for the moment, and that's the add option and the copy option. Okay, the add option and the copy option. Adding the add option, it'll allow you to import photographs from your computer without moving them. As you can see, it says add photos to the catalog without moving them. So they'll stay in the location that you have selected, and any existing file structures or folder structures that you have created will also remain intact, which is a wonderful thing about Lightroom. Then we have our copy option here as well. And copy is if you're importing from an external source. So if you are using a memory card, or if you're using a hard drive directly from your camera and so on, you can import them from those memory cards using the copy option, and you can then import them onto your computer if you like, or you can import them onto an external hard drive and so on as well. Okay, but for the moment we're going to stick with our add option. So we find our source, so this is our hard drive, Windows Drive C. We've got loads and loads and loads of different folders, but the one that we want is this one here called Lightroom Shaw. Now you can see it says no photographs were found. Why are no photographs being found? Well, that's because they are all in separate folders already. So what I can do here is if I click the top option here called include subfolders, suddenly all my photographs now appear. So if you find that there's no pictures being found when you highlight a folder, you simply click the include subfolders option, and now we can see we have all of our photographs on screen. So let's just have a look at exactly what we're dealing with here. So I'm going to reduce that. We have a thumbnail slider here. So all these little panels that we see with our photographs, these are known as thumbnails. Okay, we have a little slider here that we can use. We're going to just reduce it down, just kind of get a bigger overview of the amount of photographs that we're going to be working on throughout this course. So this is, we're going to be having a look at all of these in due time and so on. Okay, but as you can see, each one of these pictures has a little check beside it, a little tick, a little check beside it. That indicates that this photograph is highlighted to be imported. If for some reason you didn't want the photograph to be imported, you can check it off. Okay, you just, as you can see there, it goes grayed out, it goes kind of dark when you check those photographs off. Now, Lightroom is a very clever program, a very, very clever program, and it will typically not import what are called duplicate files, duplicate photographs. They are photographs that are the same. Okay, now occasionally it doesn't always get it right, but there is sometimes when it'll import the same photograph twice, but generally it will import without bringing in the same photographs. Now you can see there is some duplicates here, but it's actually because they're different file types. We've got CR2 and we have JPEGs here. CR2 and JPEG, so they're completely different types of files. A CR2 is a Canon RAW file, and this is a JPEG version of that file. Okay, so Lightroom can import any type of image file. We've got TIFFs here as well and so on. If you had PNGs, it'll bring those in as well. If you want to get a closer look at your photographs, you can come down to the grid option here. We've got a grid view. Here you can see there's a shortcut there which is called G. There's little, as we hover over each of these, there's a little bracket there with a letter. That's the shortcut. So the loop view here, if we click the letter E, we get a closer look at each of the photographs. So if you're struggling to see the pictures, you can go and press the letter E, and that will allow you to browse through them, in a different way, a closer way, so you can make a better decision about whether you want to import these photographs or not. We are going to import all of these photographs now for the moment. So we come over then to the right hand side. We want to click down our file handling first of all. Now you can see it has this option checked off called don't import suspected duplicates. So we want to check that off, okay? Now we also have this option here called build previews. If we click these down, we've got a few options. We've got minimal, embedded in sidecar, we've got standard, and we have one-to-one. Now basically what this means is that we can decide the size of the preview that we import. When we import photographs into Lightroom, remember we are working on the preview of the photograph. We're not working on the direct photograph itself. All the changes we make, we can then apply to the picture afterwards. So we can choose the size of the preview that we want. So if I zoom in on a picture, it has to render. But if I selected the one-to-one option, it won't have to render. It means it takes longer for it to import, but it'll save more time for you later on when you're zooming in and out on your photographs. Minimal would mean that they import a lot quicker, but when you zoom in on the picture, it takes a longer time for it to render. So I recommend that you just stick with standard for the moment. Now you can also make a second copy if you want to. If you wanted to make a second copy to external hard drive and so on, we have this option as well called build smart previews. If you tend to work from a hard drive, perhaps you have a laptop and you store all your photographs on an external hard drive, you can choose this option called Build Smart Previews. This is a wonderful option. It'll allow you to work on the photographs without the pictures being present on the hard drive. So if I imported pictures from an external hard drive and I had to disconnect that hard drive because I was traveling, I could still work on my pictures with the Smart Preview option. Okay, so very, very useful if you tend to work a lot, using a laptop and you haven't got a huge amount of space and you have an external hard drive instead. We also have an add to collection option here as well. We'll explore collections a little bit later on in the lesson. Then we have a few options in terms of if we want to apply any development settings. So Lightroom has a huge amount of presets that we can use in terms of editing our photographs, and we can make our own presets as well. And you might create a style for yourself. You want to apply it, to your photographs as soon as you import them. You can actually do it here. When you get very advanced in Lightroom, there's presets for every step of the way, every step of the workflow. So even importing, you can create a preset for yourself in terms of how you want your photographs to be imported and so on. So we'll come back to it a little bit later, but just be aware that it is possible to actually apply, editing to your photographs, through a preset before, even bring them into Lightroom. So it's a great feature. But for the moment, we're happy with all of this. Okay, so we just click import, and it'll take a moment or two for it to begin to bring in all of these photographs. You can actually see it rendering those previews, so you can see how it takes a moment for them to become clear. And this is what I was talking about, the standard previews. Okay, so with a one-to-one preview it would take even longer, but it means when I zoom in on the photograph, that it's already rendered for me. So again, now we have photographs in here. It's quite similar to the import screen. We have a thumbnail slider here at the bottom. We'll slide that down just so you could get a better overview of the entire grid here. Over here then on the right hand side, or sorry, the left hand side, if we come back to our catalog, we can now see it says there's some information here. We have all photographs. We have all synced photographs. We also have previous import and so on as well. So all photographs, if you want to just get a complete overview of every photograph you have in Lightroom, you would click this option off. If, say, for example, you imported some photographs and you had to, rush off and you weren't able to do any organizing or anything of that onto them, the previous import will always show you the last ones that you imported in. But obviously here in this stage, we've only got, this set of photographs, so it's the same number. Then if we come down below, okay, it has preserved my folders. So this is where we'll find our folders, and you can see it's nice and neat and organized. You've got the name of your folders. You have the amount of pictures that you have in each of these as well, with the little number beside them too. So all nice and neat and organized if you've already, created a folder system for yourself. Now, if you haven't, that's absolutely fine. Lightroom makes it very, very easy for us to make new folders and so on for ourselves. So this is kind of, really what we're going to be digging into now in just a moment. Before we get to that stage, I do want to just talk about the different view modes that we have for our photos. Now, as you can see here, it's still building those standard previews. It takes a little bit of time, but you can still work away on your photographs, no problem, while it's doing that. So let's have a look at these view modes. So down here, if I come to the very bottom, what I talk about view modes, it's basically how we look at the photographs within Lightroom. So as you can see, it looks like there's a lot going on here, and what I can see here, there's a lot of kind of doubles of a lot of these photographs as well, because we have our JPEG and our RAW versions of these two. Just a quick note on that, if you don't want the JPEG versions, if you actually come up to your edit, your Lightroom option, you go to preferences, there is an option here where you can actually switch off the JPEGs. If they're a different file, or if they're the same file, you'll only import the RAW versions of the photograph. Okay, so that is an option for you as well. Now, sorry, I digress. So coming back to our view mode, so we have our grid view here at the moment, and we can change the size of the grid view by using the thumbnail slider. You can actually also use the plus and the minus keys on your keyboard as well if you want to do that too. Now we can bring up more information about each of these files if you press the letter J. The letter J for jam, and you can see that it'll expand out each of these thumbnails. We can get the name of the file type, and so on. We can rotate the files, with these little arrows here as well. The little flag icon, we'll talk about those in a moment too. You can also rate the files here too. So there's a lot that you can do there when you bring up that more information. So just press the letter J there just to collapse those cells again. Now we also have our loop view here. You can just click it if you like, or you can press the letter E, to bring up your loop view, and you can simply use the arrow keys then to navigate, through the photographs that way instead if you wish. Okay, we can also compare photographs to each other. Okay, so perhaps we might have two photographs that are, similar to each other. We can't decide which one, that we prefer. It is possible to compare them together. Okay, so say, for example, I'm just going to pick two random photographs here. Okay, so we'll select these two. I just click this one, and I click on this one here as well. If you press the XY option, you can view the two of them together. So that way, if you need to look at the shots and you may need to compare them, you can actually zoom in, see if one is sharper than the other, and so on. You can see when I zoom in on this one, actually, it's losing a little. It's getting a bit flat there on the shadow area. Anyway, that's a separate thing. But it is possible to do this as well if you want to get a little bit closer to your photographs. And so there's a lot of useful views here to have a look at too. Now, one of my favorite ones is also called the survey view. So we'll just go back to our loop view our grid view very, very quickly here, and we'll select a few photographs. We'll go into the black and white folder here, and if I select multiple photographs, so if I control click on the first one and go to, let's say we'll go to this one here, you can see I've got highlighted now a few of them. If I go to this option here called survey view, and the shortcut for that is N, if I press that, it'll come up with all of these files together. This is a really great option if you are trying to put, say, a portfolio together, or perhaps you're planning to put a book together, or so on. There's a few different things that you can use this for. So you can put these all together. And what you can do then to make it really special, if you press Shift Tab, and this is the same on a Mac or a PC, you can expand out the panels, so you can see them a lot more clearly. You can actually do this at any stage. You can do this at any time within Lightroom if you press Shift Tab and just remove all the panels for yourself. If you press the letter L, so L for lights, I press it once, the screen gets dimmer. I press it again and it turns off the lights altogether. I absolutely love this option. It's a great way to view your photographs, and again, you can actually do this at any stage. It doesn't just have to be in the survey view, but if you press the letter L, you can switch off the lights, and you can start then to make a decision about your photographs. So for example, these 3 photographs are not working, so I'm only closing them out of the survey view. I'm not closing them out of, or I'm not deleting them from Lightroom or anything like that at all. Might get rid of that one, and I think we'll get rid of this one here as well. And suddenly you've got this little series about shapes. We've kind of got these circular geometrical shapes here as well, the squares and triangular shapes and so on. So you can see how you can use this mode to create to kind of come up with a little series of photographs for yourself. So I just press L to turn the lights back on, I press Shift Tab to bring everything back in here again. Okay. So there are your different view modes. We'll press the letter G and we'll go back to our primary folder, our master folder, and we can see everything here now again as well. So the next step then, with this is if we need to start organizing our photographs a little bit more, we might need to start making some folders for ourselves. So let's do that, okay? So we're going to come to our folders option here, and we've got this plus option here that we can use. If I click this, it comes up with this option called Add Subfolder or Add Folder. Okay, now adding folder will create a new master folder for yourself. So essentially this is like the main folder that you create. If I click it, it'll come up and ask me where I want to create it on the computer. Okay, so you can create it that way. You can choose your desktop and perhaps load it up onto your desktop. But in this case, I just wanted to create a subfolder, So we go to that, and what will come up then, we can call it whatever we like. I'm actually just going to call it miscellaneous for the moment. You can see it's asking me, do I want to put it in, or well, it's telling me it's going to be put inside Lightroom Shaw, which is my master folder. That's fine. I can include the selected photographs here as well if I like. So the highlighted photographs that I have, if I want to include those, I can simply check that off. But I'm not going to do that for the moment. I'm simply going to click Create. Oh, and the name is already there. Okay, so we'll try and choose something else then. So we'll just going to call it miscellaneous 2. So _2, click Create. And we now have this new folder here with nothing in it. Okay, so we can start to put photographs into that folder. How can we do that? Okay, well, it's very, very simple. We just drag and drop. So I'm just going to highlight some photographs here, just randomly click some off, okay, for the moment. We can reorganize this afterwards if needs be. So I'm just control clicking on some of these photographs. Sorry, pressing shift click. We'll try that again. So just control clicking on some of these photographs will allow you to highlight them individually. Okay, let's see. I'm just trying to get all of the doubles here, because if I selected the doubles, it might be a little bit easier for myself to remove them afterwards, which I'll show you how to do that a little bit later on as well. Lots of copies of this particular photograph, so we'll get rid of those too as well. So if with all of these highlighted, if I click onto one of the photographs, now very importantly, you need to click on the actual photo itself, not the gray area around it. But when I click and I drag, you can see how it stacks all those pictures, and I can just drag and drop them into that new folder. Now you can see it comes up with a message saying you're moving files on the disk. Now what this means is that you're actually moving these photographs on your computer. You're not just moving them in Lightroom, you're moving them them on the computer as well. That is very important to understand, okay? Because you know, you don't want to be, you know, going into your computer afterwards and wondering where have my photographs gone. And remember that we're actually physically moving these photographs on the computer as well. So if I click move, that'll move them all now into that new folder, and we've got all of these pictures, and they've also been moved on the computer as well. So very, very easy to create new folders for yourself and to move your pictures into them as well. So, you know, do try it out if you're feeling like you're a little bit organized in Lightroom. Definitely, you know, spend a little bit of time getting yourself organized. It's worth putting the time in, because in the long run, it's really just going to make life a lot easier for yourself. Now, while you're doing this, you know, I mentioned about looking at your photographs outside Lightroom, okay? And you might make a change to a photograph outside Lightroom, and things can get a little bit tricky then if you do that, okay? So it's generally recommended that if you are working on a photograph in Lightroom, that you do all of your work in Lightroom, because if you start using other programs to do some changes to a shot or to move a photograph on your computer without using Lightroom, or perhaps even if you use Adobe Bridge as well, you know, kind of a similar idea, Digital Assets Manager as well. If you use that, you make a change to your photographs in these programs, it might affect how they are in Lightroom. And I'll show you what that is, what I mean by that. Now, don't worry, it's not something that's a disaster. It can be very easily fixed. So say I highlight this photograph. If I right click on it, okay, you can always right click on a photograph, or, you know, to bring up loads and loads of different options for yourself. You can find where this particular photograph is on your computer. So if I go to this option called Show in Explorer, Show in Explorer, or, you know, if you're using a Mac, it might just say Show in it might say something slightly different. I'm not sure what it says on the Mac. But if I click that, it'll show me exactly where it's located on the computer. Okay, so this new folder that I've made for myself is now, this is my Windows interface. This is no longer the Lightroom interface. I'm going to right click on this photograph, and I'm going to change the name of it. I'm just going to get rid of the name of it altogether and just call it MISC. Miscellaneous, just MISC. So I've now made a change to this photograph outside of Lightroom. Okay, now what happens, and it comes up with this little exclamation mark here at the top. I'll just enlarge that so you can see it a little bit more closely. We've got that little exclamation there, and it's saying the photo is missing. Now I know the photograph is not missing, but what has happened here is I've broken the link between the catalog and the photograph. The catalog can't find the picture anymore because I made a change to it outside Lightroom. So how can I fix it? Well, it's really, really simple. You just click that little icon. If I click it, it says it cannot be found because, you know, the original file cannot be found. Would you like to locate it? Yes, I want to locate it. Now, the first thing it's going to do is go to the folder where the picture should be in. Okay, and it has done exactly that, but you might find that if you've moved the picture to a different folder, you'll have to start searching your folders to find it and to relink it. So if I click the mix option, okay, and I hit select, it's saying this is the option this is the file you've chosen. Are you sure it's the correct one? I am, so I'm going to click confirm, and that fixes the link. Very, very simple to do. It's the exact same if you do this, if you do it with a folder. If you rename a folder outside Lightroom, it's going to come up with a little question mark beside it. You can click on it, and it'll prompt you to locate that folder, and you can do the exact same thing again. So do be aware of that. If you're getting these little icons on your photographs, that you might just have broken the link between the catalog and Lightroom and your photograph. So you will need to relink it, to resync it. And as I said, for this reason, you want to try and just keep everything into Lightroom. You know, any changes or anything like that, you want to keep those within the program itself. Now, another great feature within Lightroom for organizing our photographs is rating our shots. So I mean, when we take all of these photographs, and this is one of the better features about Lightroom in terms of developing your photography skills as well, is rating our shots. So Ratings are used as a way of organizing our photographs. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways we can use ratings to organize them and label them and so on as well. But it's also great for developing your ability to be able to pick out what's a good picture, a picture that you want to work on, and one that's not a good picture. Okay, so we'll find the different ways of rating and labeling at the bottom of the grid view here of our main panel. We've got flags, we've also got our stars, and we have our labels as well. Now, flagging is a kind of a way of quick picking a photograph. So if we, highlight the picture, we can flag it, okay, as one that we want to work on perhaps a little bit later on. We can also use our filter bar here at the top as a way of filtering as well. If you click down the attributes, you could highlight all the pictures that you have flagged. Very, very simple thing to do. The best thing I think for using flags for, though, is to be able to remove pictures that you don't want, to set a file as rejected. So let's just click the letter J on our pictures, so we expand out the cells here, because I want to get rid of some of these duplicates that we have here. So for example, these are both JPEGs. I can't really see the difference between the two of them at all. Okay, it won't matter too much here for the moment, but if I set this little X, and you can see there's a little shortcut here for it, set as rejected. Okay, so if we hit that on it, you can see this little X comes up beside it. Okay, we'll do that on a couple of these photographs here. Okay, so we'll set that's set as rejected, we'll set that as rejected. You can also see while I'm doing this as well that it's also they become grayed out. So you keep going through all of your photographs and select the ones that you want as rejected. Sorry about that. That keeps coming up. There we go. Sorry about that. So you can keep going through each of these, as I said, and reject the ones that you don't want. So with those three photographs set as rejected, what I can then do, and you can go through all of these, is if I come up to my photos option here at the top, at the very, very bottom here, we have this delete rejected photos, Control/R+backspace. Delete rejected photos. Now what happens if I click this? It'll ask me if do I want to delete them from the disk altogether. Yes, I do. I want to get rid of these altogether. I don't want them, I don't need them. So you can remove them from Lightroom if you want, but if you delete from disk, that'll actually delete them from your computer altogether. So a really, really rapid way of deleting photographs. Set them as rejected, and that way you can go up to your photo option and you can delete them that way very, very quickly. Now, the other option I was talking about was rating our photographs, rating our shots. So, perhaps, like I said, we have a lot of photographs that we want to work on. We don't know which ones are going to be the best. We can rate those shots. So, for example, I see a lot of these studio photographs here, and there's a lot of kind of similar ones here as well that, these could be cleared out, as well. I'll do that myself after this lesson, but I can rate them too. So if I want to get in closer on them, I press the letter E, and that'll bring up this a lot closer, and I can rate the photographs. And think of your ratings as, if you go to a movie and they're rating them by using 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, and so on. 1 star is a poor movie, don't go and see it. 3 stars is an okay film, and 5 stars is a blockbuster. So think about that when you are editing your shots, when you're thinking about whether it's a good picture or not. Now, for the moment, I'm going to use 5-star ratings just to, you'll see a little bit later on why I'm going to use that. But, so I'm going to go through this. I'm going to set that as 5 stars. I'm going to only select the ones that I think are going to be 5 stars. A lot of duplicates here again that need to be sorted out afterwards. That's a better one there. So I'm just going through these, and I'm pressing the letter 5, or pressing the number 5 on each of these to assign a 5-star rating. You can also just simply click the little icons here as well. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but the number keys will assign a star rating to your photographs. So we've set a few 5-star ratings there to a couple of shots, okay? And what I can do then, I'm going to press G to go back to my grid view, and again I could go through my attributes here at the top, and I could select 5 stars, Sorry, we'll remove the flag there. I'll select 5 stars and it'll show me the photographs that I've assigned as 5 stars. Now, I can take this a step further and I can create a collection then of these photographs. So we'll minimize that panel for the moment. If we come down to our collections, we have first of all what are called smart collections, and a smart collection basically will group together a bunch of photographs, with a certain criteria. So for example, you can see there's colored red, there's 5 stars, so it's already got one of these already. If I click on that, it has any photograph that I've selected as 5 stars. Collections are, they're not new folders. Collections are a quick way of organizing your photographs, without moving them from their original folders. Think of them like a playlist. If you use Spotify or anything like that, you make a playlist, okay, but you're not moving those original music, those MP3s or whatever. You're not moving them from their original folders or albums or anything like that. You're just grouping them together. It's the same thing with collections. So smart collection, it'll group together my 5-star photographs. If I labeled any of them with a red label, they'll go into that colored red one as well. Photographs can exist in multiple collections. So it's not just one collection, but they can actually exist in multiple collections together. We can also make our own collections too, which I think is something that you should get into the habit of doing, and we're going to do very, very frequently throughout this course. Before we do that, if we come back up to our catalog, we have what's called a quick collection. And there's a little plus icon beside it. Okay, so this is indicating that this is also a target collection. So quick collection is exactly what it sounds like. If I wanted to quickly put photographs into a collection, I can use the quick collection. I can click on a picture, okay, and I can drag and drop it into that collection if I want, but there's a far quicker way to do it, and that is to press the letter B on the keyboard, B for butter. Okay, so if I go through my pictures, I highlight one and I press the letter B, you can see it says added to quick collection. You can go through each of these pictures, added to quick collection, simply by pressing the letter B. If I press the letter B on it again, it also removes it from that collection too. So you can quickly organize or put photographs into these collections by using your quick collection, but we can also set a collection that we make ourselves as a target collection. So what do I mean by that? So if I come back down to my collections and I create a collection, and I'm just going to call this one target for the moment, just for an example. Okay, we don't want to put it inside the collection set. Don't worry about that for the moment. We don't want to include the selected photographs either. We're just going to set this as a target collection. And if I hit create, I have this one now called target, and you can see that there is a plus symbol beside it now as well. Okay, so I can then go to, if I come back up to the quick collection, you'll see the plus symbol is actually removed from this one now. It's no longer the target collection. If I was to press the letter B on any of these pictures, they'll go to the target collection instead, not the quick collection. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly, select any of these photographs and just press the letter B on them, and just to give you an idea of this, but we're going to refine this as we go on throughout the course. So if I go into my target collection now, you can see the pictures that I was pressing the letter B on have been now added to this target collection. They are not removed from their original folders. They still remain in their original folders. This is just a very quick way of organizing them. And we're going to be using these quick collections and our target collections a lot throughout the course, so we will get into the habit of using them. Okay, so just remember to set the target collection, you right click on it as well. You can also set it as a target collection, and you can do it while you're creating the folder too. If you wanted to make your quick collection the target collection again, you can just come back up here, quick collection, and you can go right click on it and set as target collection. Set as target collection. You can also clear out the quick collection. You can save it as a separate collection if you want to, and so on as well. We'll just clear that out though for the moment, and we'll also set it back as the target collection as well.